Hi, my name is Haley Evans, and I'm doing my Week 11 informative speech. And I've chosen to do mine about Johnny Cash and why he's a legend, and my prop is my Johnny Cash shirt that my dad got me when I first showed interest in him and of related singers. What defines a legend? The definition of legendary is someone or something that has become famous or well known, usually as a result of a distinctive or unique characteristic or skill. Johnny Cash not only was an amazing musician and songwriter who was a musical legend by the early 1960s, but was also a loving father and helped create a magical love story with his wife, June Carter Cash. While some may argue about the drugs and alcohol that took over his life for a while, it doesn't change the fact that he overcame that hardship and continued to make music and live a Christian life with his family. Cash was from a small town in Arkansas and served America in the Air Force in 1950. A legend was born on February 26, 1932, one of seven to Ray and Carrie Rivers Cash, and was forced to move at the age of 3 so that his father could take advantage of the New Deal farming programs instituted by President Roosevelt. The Cash family lived in a 5-bedroom house in a field where they farmed cotton. Johnny was closest to his older brother Jack, who had a tragic farming accident in 1944 when he was only 14 that ended in death. Could you imagine going through your whole life feeling responsible for your own brother's death? Certainly enough, though completely undeserved, the blame of the accident served as the farming device for Johnny Cash's continually black core. One eerie morning in May 1944, when J.R. was 12, he began to go fishing while Jack prepared for work at the high school agriculture shop, where he had a job cutting timber. The job paid only $3 a day, but the 14-year-old felt a strong responsibility to help provide for his struggling family. Jack lost his balance while trying to cut a board. He fell into a huge head saw. The saw's jagged blade sliced him almost in half. It created a gash from his ribcage all the way to his groin. He did not die instantly. Instead, he suffered for several days in a hospital bed, and at one point even showed signs that he might actually get well, even though the doctor advised otherwise. Had to take out too many of his insides, the physicians told the boy's parents. Jack died the next day. J.R.'s feeling of guilt was worsened by his father, Ray, who frequently openly pointed out the irony that the hard-working Jack was killed, while Johnny, the good-for-nothing layabout who chose fishing over work that day, lived on. Ray Cash made his heartless opinions entirely visible, telling J.R. flatly that it should have been him, not Jack, who died on that crucial day. According to his sister Joanne, on the day of Jack's funeral, Johnny went to the gravesite early. He picked up a shovel and began to help the workers dig Jack's grave. At the service, his clothes were dirty from the effort, and he wore no shoes because his foot was swollen from stepping on a nail. He had this really sad guilt thing about him his whole life. Cash's daughter Kathy once said of her father, "You could see it in his eyes. You can look at almost any picture and see this dark sadness thing going on. It formed a heavy spirit that turned him into the original Man in Black, a country star whose dark wardrobe was as much a style choice as the reflection of his dark inner self." Music had always been a part of the Cash family. Johnny's oldest brother, Ray, was the first Cash to show his face in the music industry. He started a band called the Dixie Rhythm Wranglers. Johnny once won a talent show, and the $5 that went with it. His guitar, purchased in Germany, cost about the same amount he'd won in that talent show years before. Although Johnny picked up his first guitar when he was 12 and took singing lessons when the teacher told him not to change his unique voice. Almost all of Johnny's songs had meanings or stories behind them. He hit Sunday Morning Coming Down had a funny tale behind it as well. It was 1969, and Chris Christopherson was working as a janitor at Columbia Records in Nashville, Tennessee. As Johnny Cash was signed to Columbia, Chris often saw the man in black hanging out in the halls. Chris would often walk up to Johnny and give him a copy of one of his songs and hope that he would record it, and Chris would be able to fulfill his dreams of writing a country music hit. Johnny would take the tapes but would never record the songs, so Chris decided to take it to extreme action. Chris Christopherson was out on flight training in a helicopter when he decided to make an unexpected detour and landed his helicopter right onto Johnny Cash's front lawn. What happened next is up for debate. Johnny Cash claims that Chris had a beer in one hand and a cigarette in the other, and practically fell out of the helicopter when he landed. While Chris claims John wasn't even there, he had a very creative memory. He told how I got out of the helicopter, and I said, "John, you've got to have both hands and both feet when you're flying a helicopter." What is for certain is that the stunt got Johnny's attention, and it stopped him from throwing Chris's tapes in the lake, and convinced him to take a risk and record Chris's new song, "Sunday Morning Coming Down." His affair, an eventual marriage to June Carter, forms the centerpiece of the 2005 Oscar-winning movie Walk the Line. In the story of the filming and pre-production of Walk the Line is a well-thought-out, intense story that took years and years of planning before a studio would sign on to produce the movie. The relationship between Johnny and June was even more unsettled than made out in the film. So unsettled that it inspired the song Ring of Fire. Truth is, Johnny Cash did not write this popular song. June Carter wrote it about their relationship, and it was a ring of fire. They were both married. They would both shout, "You get divorced. No, you get divorced." They would break up. He would start dating other people, sometimes June's sister. Some argue that Johnny lacked character and morals as he took a spiral when drugs and alcohol became his best confidants. While his first wife, Vivian, stayed home to take care of his two daughters, he lacked as a father and husband. He went through a drug binge. He was found in a near-death state by an officer in a small Georgia town. Although Cash's most popular and best-selling albums were the live albums he recorded in prisons, throughout his career he performed in prisons, sympathetic to the dilemma of inmates and their stories. Although he never himself spent any great length of time in jail. He was arrested 7 times and spent a few nights in jail, including his arrest due to smuggling amphetamines into the United States and accidentally starting a forest fire in Tennessee. News reporters said that he was found with 668 Dexedrine and 475 Equinil tablets in his luggage. "I took all the drugs there are to take, and I drank," Cash recalled. "Everybody said that Johnny Cash was through because I was walking around town 150 pounds. I looked like walking death." He changed his ways when he met his soulmate, June Carter, who helped him clean up the mess he so carelessly made. With his wife's success, he kicked his drug habit and became a Christian. Cash proposed on stage to June at a concert at the London Gardens in London, Ontario, Canada, on February 22nd. The couple married a week later. She agreed to marry Cash after he had cleaned up. Johnny Cash was well known for his outlaw image based on his reputation as a rebel. Johnny Cash's story and legend lives on and always will. I think he'll be remembered for the way he grew as a person and an artist. He went from being this guy who was as wild as Hank Williams to being almost as respected as one of the fathers of our country. And Billy Graham, you felt like he should have had his face on Mount Rushmore. Johnny Cash remains one of the only artists to sell over 90 million records.